have gains from the government. So the complete restructuration to give you a more organic and systemic vision, and the structuration of the Secretariat of Economic Development, the Secretariat of Tourism, and the Secretariat of Agrarian Development, and the Science and Technology Secretary. These 5 secretariats would form an integrated network to the Culture Secretariat of the Creative Economics, for example, to generate opportunities. The Tourism Secretariat of this big boost with the port and the aerial hub, tourism development. We've been doing good till December. So the Familial Agriculture Secretariat, and then development, economic development. We've had new policies of commerce and innovation, the agribusiness, work and entrepreneurship, to the small and medium companies, not developed it so far, and the development and a complete comprehensive restructuration in the secretariat, and the plan of government that Ceará Veloz, the theme of this panel, and these policies been implemented, and there's lots of important points. A platform to develop better Ceará and for environments. So, business environment, first of all, with the regulation milestones or tax incentives. So the modernization of these milestones, they are ready for the governor to deliberate a model with FIEC and SIC of debureaucratization and simplification in the public machine to accelerate the entrepreneurial processes in Ceará, and a better articulation with banks and credit, because the state has lost this condition in the past to have a bank of incentives. It's been very more strong during the pandemic, with a structure based on intermodal logistics and a logistic hub in the same port, in this technological port, as in the telecommunications and informatics, and the structure not only by the underwater cables connecting Ceará and Brazil to the world, but as well this digital network that is, we call this optical ring in Ceará, that developed a lot, taking high-speed internet to all the municipalities and fostering a new economy within the state. In this point of infrastructure, it's important to highlight a strong action of the hydrical assurance. So water and energy are fundamental factors. So Ceará is quite very well structured about energy and also renewable energy. So we have 2 points in this platform. And the third platform is the manpower, the human resources. So improving education, for example, within the state, improving the public management. So through commitment that we've had in the technological and human development. A fourth important axis is this network of science and technology innovation. Approximately 8 universities, more than 100 faculty facilities, 34 IFCEs, this is Federal Institutes of Technology, and more than 100 professionalizing schools distributed in 188 municipalities. So with this, we have a new platform, different from 30 years ago. We haven't had these advancements not only in the K-12. So these are the strong one of the strong points within education, and this infrastructure that will have been developing in the last 30 years, and we have a very competitive infrastructure nowadays, and the improvement of this regulatory milestone, so the legal security also important to the entrepreneur. So, and to finalize this, my first participation, we've found a focus in 11 economic layers, not only the three hubs, the aerial, the technological, and the port hub, but Ceará has a privileged position as a site in the country, what favors the formation of some hubs through the position we have in the north of the country and also in the northeast of the country. This position, so it's a privilege, and we must take advantage from this. And we've prioritized some clusters of this between common old economy in Ceará, the structuration of sectors like they've been formed in this industrialization policy by that time by the late Virgílio Távora and also his successors, Ciro and Tasso, that brought this textile and shoal industry that need now redesign to compete better. The agribusiness in Ceará that start to be prosperous, this improvement of this hydric security of the introduction of the technologies and biogenetics, mostly by the excellent structure of Embrapa, specialized in tropical economy. These are two areas already forming the Ceará economy. Tourism that have been advancing since the government of Tasso Gereissati, the policy of infrastructure and people capacitation, and we've had also the airport for by that time in its first stage, and now we are in the stage two. So infrastructure of sewage and the roads and highways to foster the tourism policy. These are or old policies, and in this nowadays Ceará, what we call new economy, what we are in this economy being introduced in this knowledge era, we can uh, generating a good number of investments. You talk about 8 billion of public investments only the last year. This area of renewable energies, besides structuring the production chain of generation with investments with over 12 billion reais, and then this year, with this only technology of the eolic wind power offshore, we are in process of structuration and some figures of with 4.6 gigawatts that represents almost 20 billion that and this to be implanted, and they need a new platform in the northeast in the port of Pecém, and we depend on the manufacturers to come to work here. And so the manufacturer of the core of the generator for the offshore manager. So to give you an idea, the biggest generator produced nowadays, it has 4.2 megawatts in this market of renewable energy offshore. We're talking about the generators of 12 to 14 mega. So uh, what is it's a leap, a huge leap, and a new economy that can be structured in Ceará. So it advanced a lot. Another topic is very well advanced. Is the economy of the technological hub. These companies are prosperating. So the Mobi that has been acquired, part of its capital has been brought. So the BrisaNet, Wirelink, and a network of more than 500 providers associated to these three companies. The logistics of the Pecém port and the port Pecém complex itself, that is not only a logistic project, it's an industrial project. So we are working this year in the structuration, mostly, so it's been a cluster we've been working on. The governor himself, yesterday, he announced a structure of tests in partnership with the federal government and Fiocruz in the city of Eusébio here, the neighborhood of Fortaleza, working with the secretary this year, and also the business structure in the area of the hydric security. So we have big industries behind this great investments that will populate the northeast of Brazil from the regulatory milestone, and also investments in the raw water of the San Francisco transposition. So there's new economies, so in the agribusiness, the water, the seawater economy, for example, Ceará, we are the greatest exporter in fishery in Brazil, and the creative economy, we've always been very creative, for example, in this area of events. And so these are topics we've been working on. So from the Ceará Veloz program that we've been adjusting to the pandemic context. And thanks God, these plans 2050 and Ceará Veloz, they kind of forecasted what the pandemic brought us, and we are proceeding with the adjustments. FIEC is also doing these adjustments in order to build a new covenant, a new solution, and to be very strong with the economy of Ceará after the effects of the pandemic. And we can grow much more. So Geraldo, Luciano, the long exposition of the secretary is very attractive. It persuades and leave the excited the private sector. So comparing to other states of the federation, what is the stage of modernization of Ceará, and what are our best qualities and what our, how can I say, constraints? So good evening, Tardan. Good evening, Mr. Secretary Maia Jr. So I would like you to congratulate you for this first exposition. However, it's been long, but it's been comprehensive and with lots of information. I would like to initially to thank you all for this invitation. I would like to congratulate all the organization of Ceará Global, the event where we can show the level of attention by the organizers, and in this new normal or old accelerated normal, it may be the greatest event we're having here in Ceará that we have the privilege to participate on. So that's my compliments to the organizers and to the founders of this event. So I think Mr. Maia Jr. did a very comprehensive exposition. So with the main points, and maybe we can say what makes a company to come to Ceará, how the private sector analyzes the competitiveness of the states. If we take a look, and I have had this opportunity in my career as an executive, as a consultant, that we end up following what happens in the whole country. All the states are kind of improving their structure regarding logistics. That's fundamental to all the business. So talking about energy supply or hydric security, I think everyone is trying to attract the private sector in a different in a different way. So, and before, the attraction of investments was based on subsidies, tax subsidies or land donation. And I think our talking about it, I think this policy must be reviewed. I think it has a good role, important role in the past, but now it damages more than it helps. So the way to attract investment must be renewed. So we have new points of view. We need to need to give more infrastructure. We need to give more market potential. So the private sector looks after market potential, and that's why Tardin, when you introduced the panel, you talked about the necessity that this growth must be followed by the reduction of inequalities, because when you reduce inequality, you grow market. So the market potential is something too much important. So it's a point of assessment, important point of assessment by the private sector. So human resources, this is, Mr. Secretary talked about this, and this, as our state has been investing and advancing, but we still face some constraints in our daily routine. Sometimes we have job posts in our companies, and we can't find professionals. But well, I think it's not only in Ceará; it's a worldwide problem. I saw some news about Google and other companies that they decided to train their employees, since the universities are not delivering to the market so good quality professionals. So these companies decided to train their own professionals to acting like university, so this is a problem all over the world, and we need to acknowledge that in Ceará we lack of this. We sometimes have to bring professionals from other parts of Brazil to enter in specific job posts. So we've been advancing, but we need to advance much more. So public security, I think it's a very important topic in the investment attraction. So in our state, we need to have very special attention. I recall, for example, 15, 20 years ago, when we wanted to convince some executives to come to Fortaleza, the first reason was oh, life quality. Life quality is a very calm and safe city, but we lost a little bit in this segment. And today is totally the opposite. When we try to bring professionals to Ceará, we listen listen from these professionals. Wow, I think Ceará is very dangerous. Is that true? So, and then we've been losing this quality of public safety, and it's too much important, and it must be addressed. We've been advancing to last year, but we've have very quite worrying indexes this year. And so the public machine efficiency or tax tax quality, because it's too much important for the private sector when they decide to allocate capital. So I have 30 years, but we've been having a very responsible conduction of the public administration, and it's important this to continue because it's they're fundamental to the allocation of capital by the private sector. We have three letters to ESG, so environment, social, and governance. All the world is looking at with too much attention. So environmental concerns are important. And it's a concern from the investors, it's a concern from the public, from the consumers, from the employees, a concern of everybody. So each day more, the private companies, they have commitments to environment and to society and to show better quality governance. And I'm very surprised because I've had the opportunity because of my job. I know the reality of lots of private companies in Ceará because I've been working here and I've been working in other municipalities. And I'm quite surprised by the concern of by the local entrepreneurs with governance improvement. That's something that excites us because the entrepreneurs are acknowledging that governance generates value to their business, and it gets me very, very excited to with the future of the private sector. We have a strong and creative private sector with a lot of hardworking people. We have lots of companies here, leaders in their segments in the whole country, and example for the whole country. We have a stronger and vigorous private sector. I liked your question about red tape and bureaucracy. I think we've been advancing in this field, but we are far, far from the ideal. We heard a lot about all the commercial secretariat. Is that one where we open a company so as quick as possible. So when we first assess the red tape in a state, so we the answer is, well, the indicator is so as much quick we open a company, but on the daily routine in the entrepreneurial field, we know that we need permanent red tape procedures. So we have some departments in some states that we open in a very quick way a company, but other procedures, other bureaucratic procedures, they take too long, too much long, and we have lots of rework, and we need to review this, to assess this when we evaluate all the red tape within the public sector. And I repeat, it's not only about the state of Ceará. I always have an example that for example, there are some departments in the country that if you give a wrong signature in the wrong place, only because one of the signers in the contract, they signed in the wrong place. And I think in the public sector, as a whole, has a big work to do. And I think in everything we talked here, Ceará has advanced, but there's still a lot of work to do. Because as a citizen, for example, as a citizen from the state, I can say we live a competition. We're living a competition for investments, and all the other states are trying to improve or searching for improvements to improve their innovation environment, their education environment, the efficiency of the public machine, so the assurance, the legal assurance of of their businesses, and all the states are improving towards attracting investments, and that's why lots of things we've been doing in Ceará. So we can't deny, as Mr. Secretary Maia Jr. said, we couldn't achieve more than 2.25 participation in our Brazilian GDP, even if we have more than 4% of the population. So we have a dream to achieve the same participation in GDP as the participation in the number of the percentage of population, but we must do still lots of improvements, and we are together, the private sector and the public sector, to find the best solutions. We only have a good growth in our state if the private sector and the public sector are much more united and reunited. And I'll finish my first speech, and if we have time, we will detail furthermore some idea that is not clear. Yes, we'll have the opportunity. You talked about the importance to accelerate, to advance, and this achievement. And the name of this panel is indeed Ceará Veloz, quick Ceará. So let's advance 30 years. Let's imagine our state in 30 years. Because we've been talking about 30 years of responsible management. And what about the next 30 years? How can you see our state within 3 decades? So the goal that Geraldo Luciano talked about the GDP, and this GDP, this goal to arrive in 4% of the Brazilian GDP, is this, it fits the actions we are taking during this moment. So, Mr. Secretary, your microphone is turned off. Well, this is what we wish. Geraldo Luciano told us, as much as we do efforts and we plan towards the future, we have a homework, a very intense homework to do, and we have no other way. We need to accelerate. In order to accelerate the Cearás growth beyond what we already put, I would put some other points. I would add some comments. Well, the first point, I agree with Mr. Luciano. He knows about what I think, and he knows we're moving towards this, and this model has 40 years of fiscal policy. So this model is done. We're done with this model. We talked with the platforms, and but we have some lessons about Geraldo Luciano's speech. So whether the state breaks with this model to transform Ceará in an industrial economy service, and with strong participation in this commercial area, and we have in course a prediction, forecasting of a modern agribusiness in the things we can produce the most. We have the seawater economy, for example, proteins from the sea, and also the field of fruit agriculture that can generate a good production for all the states of the Northeast region of Brazil. Well, if we associate to other technologies in this field of agriculture, as it happened in the center-west of Brazil, I have no doubt that with the hydric security, Ceará can be a great producer of food. But with no doubt, the public administration must understand something about demand, because we have demands for investment attractions. The Northeast has this velocity, to have this velocity of growth, we need to consume, and to order to have bigger consumption, we need to reduce inequalities and to improve people's incomes. For example, we have this goal to increase the salary average, the wage average, to increase the demand, and then we will attract much more investment. Because when he said, well, every other state has been advanced, oh, some states are better and some not, but they're moving towards the same direction. So the other important point is to double this average, this income per person. When I have only 2.2% of the GDP participation if this in this next 30 years we achieve to make all these adjustments in 30 years, because it's no easy to forecast what will happen in 30 years. And as Geraldo said, we have a lot of homework to do as virtuals we are. But it's very important to have this equality between our demographic participation, the Brazilian population, and then our participation in the GDP, because it doubles it to increase the power of consumption. It's a very important point to the next years to understand and to prepare a structure capable of consumption and capable of attracting investments in order to increase the demand. Other point he stated, and I also stated, it's important to renew this incentive and the subsidies policies. And he approached some points that were of the new proposal we sent to the governor. For example, attraction of good human resources. For example, we are having shy improvements in Ceará's education, basic education and research education. And so we have this restructuration of this network of innovation, science, and technology. But we need some attraction, some policy to attract and to keep talents. And for this, I believe myself that the incentives must not be totally about taxes or or land, for example, land concessions. For example, when we're talking about to give some company a piece of land, we're talking about the property incentives. We have also a tax or fiscal incentives, a reduction, because even though there's in practice we don't have a zero tax policy because we have some returns, but it must be reviewed, and we must be review these policies in a more economic sense. For example, by a good governance that we see in some entrepreneurs. And with these examples, we need to have good new policies, a structuration of a better human resources team, or better quality people to guide and to have this policies, this growth of Ceará. So restructuration of this economy of growth, the companies must enter. Pandemics let this very clear in this management of technology and knowledge. So the research and development aligned to the new reality, incentives to the environmental questions, environmental issues, sustainability on the companies. We it's a handicap out abroad. We can't uh, we can't produce fruits with arsenic, in our properties in Ceará. We can't do fishery in this 570 kilometers of shore. Killing the fish's reproduction without the proper times of recovering. So this structure of companies more that aim in the exportation, for example. So the human resources will improve technology, productivity, and also technology, and this basis with an economy based on other path from the point of view of the internal investments of human resources, exportation structure, research and development, and knowledge economy. So in fostering local consumption. So the government program about procurement government procurements it's been very successful. We are now fostering in the local companies the government procurement on the small and medium businesses in Ceará. So as higher as the participation, so our economy will grow quicker, and the reconversion of these companies that you talked about as a consequence of the pandemic, then we need to structurate and stimulate, and a new order. It's about a public instrument of doing this economic fostering of a new version of the incentive, a complete, comprehensive restructuration in the development agency of Ceará to transform itself in a foster agency, finding this, finding the loans, the proper investments, not only national but with the multilaterals, searching for equity and in this going public with companies, for example. So the state to be ruled by a market regulations, as Geraldo said, the state must improve the public management efficiency, but it's important to people that people understand what market is. So we can't admit our the equity of the state not to be managed adequately. So it's a possibility the state to have with properties or the public debts, public bonds, us, and also the plans for the pension plans. They may be new new gas for the Cearás companies. So, but we need to stop doing the same thing and expecting different results. We need to make different things, and Geraldo is right when he approaches these fundamental points, and I'm aligned with he states and he thinks about my way of thinking as well about the development agency, about new incentive proposals, no, not to let the economy to enter in this monotony that all the states will do the same thing. So someone must do something different in Ceará. So, Mr. Secretary, have less than 10 minutes in the panel, so I would like to ask to Geraldo Luciano about the international airport in Fortaleza that's been now managed by the Frankfurt airport. So, and then we have this 2020 pandemic, and we have the Pecém port associated with the Rotterdam port, and with three improvements, we have 28 tons capacity, and 2020 seems to have moved 18 million tons. So all the investments in port, energy, highways, hydric security, and airports, so they are threatened by this economical crisis in the planet, in the pandemic. So to talk the opposite, Geraldo Luciano, is not to be naive. So maybe sometimes the optimistic is a fool, and the pessimistic is a born person. It's better to be a realistic with hope. So if you allow me, Tardan, I would like you to talk about the final speech, the final part of this secretary's comment, to highlight something he said that is very, very relevant, and that our private sector, our entrepreneurs, they must be very aware of that. That is the importance of the market of assets and the growth of our state and our country's development. We arrived in a situation that, fortunately, that is very positive, that we have an interest rate, a negative real, never negative actual interest rate in Brazil. If we get the Selic rate, and we need that the fiscal policies in Brazil they be taken seriously. But scenario it opens the ideal conditions for the growth of economy. We have lots of companies going public. For example, in Ceará, we have lots of companies organizing themselves, preparing themselves for this. We have other instruments of market law like debentures or certification of receivables. We have debentures to finance, for example, research and development and innovation, a specific debenture for that that the company must get for this. So property funds, for example, real estate funds. We have supermarket brands creating funds when they put the assets and they get the resource and they pay the investors very, very attractive rates comparing to the investors have now in the market. So the market of assets, they are opening huge perspectives for growth. So it's important to highlight what Mr. Secretary said because it's fundamental in order to develop. There's no economy, big economy that grows in a sustainable way without a market of assets, a strong market of assets. And we are moving towards this in Brazil. Then I would like to highlight this, the importance and the relevance of this point. Really very important. So what you said about the airport, about the port, we can't deny how important it's been for the development of our state to build that airport some years ago. And Mr. Secretary, he knows a lot about the history, about the construction of that airport. So we can't deny the importance and also of its restructuration. And also the same thing about the port. Two important instruments to attract investments. We could not have this expansion of the tourism market, for example, if we haven't had quality airports or two very important equipment. And maybe if we evaluate all the investments made by the public sector in the last years, for sure, these two are amongst the most important. And we can't, we need to assess this year because with a different look, because we couldn't imagine, no one could forecast what we are experiencing. I believe things will come back to some normal. I think some things they came to last, and I don't like that expression of good normal. I prefer the accelerated old normal. The new normal for me does not exist. Some things that we already know that they would arrive, and they arrived earlier, and they will last. And I think these instruments like airports and the port, they will be still very important to continue this development process. And also about hydric security is fundamental to the agribusiness. And yes, we need strong agribusiness for exportation. And for exportation, we need the port. So if we take a look, all the segments of our economy, they need directly or indirectly of equipments. They need equipments like the port and the airport. So this year of 2020 is totally awkward, but I think these equipments are important to the next 30 years, because if we do not double our GDP, but to perform important achievements. We have only 3 minutes of panel here, and I would like you to ask. I'd like to ask a lot of questions, but I will ask only one. And please, I would like you to ask you to answer very quickly. So the world is moving towards maybe some polarization between United States and China. If Brazil and Ceará must choose, so to whom we should partner better? So China or United States? So, and well, by the way, the bidding for the energy in Brazil has been delayed for 2021, but the 5G bidding has been delayed for the next year, but the dispute between United States and China is ongoing. And Mr. Secretary, between United States and China, 1 minute. Oh, no doubt, I would choose United States. So the exportations of Ceará, more than 50% are going to United States, and I believe the structure or in the structure of the United States. Well, when you ask United States and China, do not forget about India. India is building their capacity on human resources, and the greatest companies in the world have Indian CEOs. So do not forget about India. So, Geraldo, Luciano, United States or China? Well, I hope that we don't have to make this option if we can develop ways to have both as commercial partners, to taking advantage of our potentials and the opportunities they offer, these two giants that commands the economy in the world. I would like to have options to develop commercial relations with both, and not having to choose. You know, I would like to have to advance and to have both, to have relations with both, importing or exporting with both. Okay. Unfortunately, I have no time, but I would like you to ask you for final remarks if you want. So, Mr. Secretary, you first. Well, first of all, again, congratulate all the organizers. Geraldo Luciano has been very happy, and it's the greatest event during this pandemic period in Ceará. It's very important, not only for this global insertion of Ceará and the opportunity for lots of participants willing to know the evidences of the successes of Ceará. And I would like also to say thank you for your participation, for my participation, to congratulate Geraldo. Geraldo, a friend of mine, very sensible and balanced man, and been a very, very valuable this night. And it's been an honor for me to be by your side, Tardan, and by Geraldo's side in this evening to discuss about our state, a state that I am very proud of because I've been participating during these last years of my life in a very dedicated way to the development of the history, the economic, and also the public administration, and now economic development. So it's a privilege. It's been a privilege, and have a good night, and may this event be a complete success. Well, I see Mauro Costa waiting for me, but I will pass the floor to Geraldo Luciano. Well, I'll be very brief. Like to thank by the invitation. It's very good to have the opportunity to talk to Maia Jr., to Mr. Secretary Maia Jr. was one of the best knowers about the public administration, and he has a true public spirit, and it's important to have managers like him. And then I would like to congratulate again the organization, and so to give my good night to all of you and to all the audience. Thank you, Mr. Luciano. Thank you, Mr. Maia Jr. And now I'll pass the floor to our Master of Ceremony, Mauro Costa. Okay, Tardan, thank you. I'm here. So after you, I am here. I'm feeling bad to have the floor passed from you. So I would like to thank our Ceará Veloz panelists presence, Mr. Secretariat, Maia Jr., Mr. Geraldo, Luciano, that brought us important reflections. My dear journalist Tardan, always tranquil and secure. So all the event tech staff here, they are, well, making all the efforts to give you a smooth event. And I would like to thank you for this first night. And we'll be back tomorrow morning, okay? The second day of Ceará Global. So have a good night and a good rest. Tomorrow we'll start at 9 of the panel Macau, the platform between China and the Portuguese language countries. We'll have a nice rest. So good night, everyone.